So Ferrari kicked off the 2024 season with a strong start, securing a podium finish and a fourth-place position for Leclerc. However, it's clear that tensions between the two drivers are persistent throughout the entire campaign. Despite Ferrari establishing itself as the second-best team in 2024 and Sainz displaying a competitive edge, particularly finishing within 2 seconds of Perez, it's apparent that there's an ongoing rivalry. The Spaniards' goals are evident, adding a layer of difficulty for the team principal of the Maranello Squad. The question remains, will Sainz prove himself, potentially exposing Leclerc to the future plans of Ferrari? The Bahrain Grand Prix showcased a commendable performance from both Ferrari drivers. Despite Leclerc's complaints about front lockups affecting his position, especially in turns 1 and 10, he lost ground to Russell and Sainz. However, as the race progressed, it became evident that Leclerc had the pace over Russell. Yet Carlos Sainz demonstrated his fearlessness by overtaking his teammate twice, despite Leclerc putting up a strong fight on both occasions. In the early phases of the race, Russell successfully passed Leclerc around lap 3, resulting in a tight pack of 4 drivers within a second of each other. At this point, Sainz made it clear that he wouldn't adhere to any team orders, asserting his belief that he had superior pace compared to those ahead. Despite initially trailing behind Russell, Leclerc, and Perez, Sainz showcased a remarkable performance, only being outperformed by the Red Bull driver. This bold move of overtaking his teammate and the faster Mercedes driver sends a strong message about his potential for the future. Looking ahead, there's a vacancy in the Brackley-based squad for the 2025 season. If Toto Wolff decides it's premature for Antonelli and Alonso to join the Silver Arrows, Sainz stands a genuine chance to demonstrate to Ferrari that their issues in the team weren't solely driver-related. However, it's important not to rush to conclusions based on just one race. Yet, it's evident that Sainz will adopt an every-man-for-himself mindset moving forward. There might be questions about why the team didn't celebrate a podium finish from the faster of the two drivers in the season opener, hinting at the team's potential favoritism towards Leclerc. This presents another opportunity for Sainz to further prove himself as a valuable asset to the team. An essential point to note is that Leclerc held the position of Ferrari's preferred driver. This preference was evident when he was the first to be called into the pits, intending to undercut his teammate. However, this strategic move didn't significantly impact the overall field dynamics. Analyzing the lap comparisons between the teammates, Sainz exhibited the most notable difference, being around 0.4 of a second faster than Leclerc. It's crucial to consider that the brake issue experienced by Leclerc limited his ability to push the car to its full potential. Despite this setback, achieving a P4 finish was likely the best outcome given the car's constraints. While it's commendable for Leclerc to surpass Russell and finish closely behind his teammate, Russell's engine issues and the team's adjustment of the power unit for him influenced the final grid positions on lap 57. The pecking order between the Ferrari drivers at the race conclusion did not align with the team's ideal scenario, impacting Leclerc's leadership role. Nevertheless, it has always been evident that Sainz is not one to yield easily. With everything at stake, Sainz may unveil a side of himself that hasn't been prominently seen before. However, it was foreseeable that Sainz wouldn't adhere to team strategies. While instances of such clashes were observed in a few races, such as Monza in 2023, it's reasonable to expect that the Spaniard will maintain this approach throughout the entire 2024 season. Importantly, with no contract secured for the 2025 season, Sainz has little incentive to play the team game. For him, it's a self-centric approach, and he may use this season as an opportunity to express his sentiments about being replaced by Hamilton, especially when he believes in a future with the Maranello team. Despite arguments about Leclerc facing car issues, the prevailing belief was that the car would suit him better than Sainz. However, with Sainz starting 2 positions behind his teammate at P4, the results favor the Spaniard more than anticipated. While he may not have had the pace to challenge Perez for P2, he remained relatively close. If Sainz sustains this performance throughout the season, akin to Hamilton's achievements last year, it's reasonable to assume that he could find himself in a more competitive environment compared to Sauber and Audi. The Bahrain GP has highlighted a clear reality. Ferrari will face challenges when it comes to prioritizing its drivers in certain situations. The same predicament might extend to Mercedes, But with Hamilton securing a contract for 2025, contrasting priorities arise within the team. Sainz, aiming to prolong his F1 career, seeks to make battles between Leclerc and himself fiercer than those involving Russell and Hamilton. Even during preseason testing, Sainz's performance hinted that he's not adopting a passive role. Despite perceptions of him as the designated number 2 driver, the dynamics are shifting as his career is on the line. Addressing the media post-race, Sainz emphasized that his outstanding performance in Bahrain wasn't a one-off, expressing his intent to build on the momentum. "I felt really good out there today," he said, acknowledging the start wasn't perfect but highlighting his tire management and overtaking achievements on the way to the podium. In dealing with questions about his relationship with Leclerc and sentiments after the public revelation of Hamilton's contract, Sainz, known as the smooth operator, chose not to disclose anything controversial. Instead, he opted to let events unfold on the track. This approach was evident in his actions during the race, where he passed both his teammate and Russell, showcasing a strategic and composed performance. In Bahrain, Sainz made 2 significant statements. Firstly, he asserted himself as the faster and more proficient driver in the race, a surprising revelation considering his P4 qualification. Secondly, he hinted at the possibility of being faster than Russell in a similar but different competitive car. This statement might spark contemplation within the Brackley-based squad about whether Sainz is worth considering for recruitment. However, there is a formidable challenge ahead for the Spaniard, aside from potential competition from Kimi Antonelli in the future, his compatriot Fernando Alonso. Aston Martin had a less than ideal start to the season, finishing P9 and P10, arguably the weakest among the top 5 teams. If their performance continues at this pace, it might lead to dissatisfaction for Alonso, potentially prompting him to consider a move to Mercedes. This could escalate Sainz's actions, as he already demonstrated assertiveness in completing overtakes, staying competitive, and trailing the RB20 for a significant duration during the race. Ultimately, the hard compound tire didn't work to Sainz's advantage, preventing him from employing an alternative strategy to challenge Perez more aggressively. Despite this, starting from P4 and surpassing 2 crucial competitors he aims to outperform in the upcoming season, it's not a bad beginning. Leclerc and Sainz were commonly perceived as close friends, not just teammates, until Vasseur decided to prioritize a bigger opportunity for the Spaniard. This decision emphasized that when an opportunity like Hamilton's arises, it's hard to turn it down. Despite Hamilton facing battery issues and Mercedes not being in an ideal position, Ferrari received an early setback from Sainz. He had all the motivation to push the limits of the SF24 and secure the best possible finishing position in 2024, ideally landing at P2. At this moment, achieving a higher position seems challenging given the Red Bull's dominance. The gap between Perez and Sainz consistently hovered around 3 seconds, occasionally dropping to less than 2. Despite Sainz attempting a few maneuvers, he realized continuing would only wear out his tires without yielding significant results. Anticipate potential fireworks at Ferrari in the coming races, especially when the car undergoes upgrades. While some fans expressed disappointment about the race's conclusion, it's essential to remember that the launch spec car is the initial version. As data is gathered from races, both minor tweaks and substantial upgrades are likely to elevate performance up the grid. This applies not only to Ferrari but also to Red Bull, who is still chasing the controversial zero-pod design. Ferrari currently holds the position of the second-best team, and trust appears to be heavily placed in Sainz unless Vasseur intervenes to salvage the team's dignity and prioritize Leclerc in different ways. However, such actions might trigger Sainz's displeasure to some extent. Considering this, the question arises, will Sainz make Ferrari regret replacing him with Hamilton? More importantly, if he doesn't opt for the Sauber Audi project, which team do you think would be willing to sign a longer extension for the smooth operator? Share your thoughts in the comments below.